Hey, it's Melissa F. Kalin, and I'm back with more advice for chasing the aurora in your backyard. I am the founder of the Michigan Aurora Chasers, author of Beyond the 45th Parallel, a beginner's guide to chasing aurora in the mid-latitudes, and co-founder of the Aurora Summit. And what I'd like to share with you today is a guide I developed earlier this year in 2024. That's available online. It's available on my website at kalinart.com/viewing dash locations or on the new website of the Michigan Aurora Chasers, michiganaurorachasers.com. Now, this is an empowered guide deciding where to chase aurora, and it's going to help you find a viewing location anywhere. But there's a lot here, so let's dig in. It's built on the empowerment principle, which is a principle I developed for the Michigan Aurora Chasers that I use when I chase. And the empowerment principle states we empower people to find their own viewing locations and, above all, to keep exact locations or park names off of public forums to protect wildlife, vegetation, property, and human life in countless ways. Chasing in small, sustainable groups helps us reduce damage and risk. So there are really four components to this. One is keep those locations discreet. Sharing a city name is not really the issue, but if you're sharing exact locations, try to do so in private messages, DMs, or small group discussions. You don't want to go onto a public forum on the most active aurora night of the year and post an exact location for over 100,000 readers. You could get absolutely ambushed in that spot, or maybe not even be able to get to that spot. Um, Another component is to read up on ideas. If you're just starting out, do a little reading. You'll quickly learn where to go. You can start with well-known locations that can be found in online listings or guides. They're often safer, more parking, more accessible. Scout out your own spot. We really encourage our aurora chasers to find a place with exciting potential during the daylight so that when you go back in the dark, you can go confidently, knowing exactly what to expect. Avoid precarious terrain, uninspected encounters, and other pitfalls. There could be a wildlife nest nearby, an electrocuted fence, um, a well that's abandoned that you could fall inside. But good news, if you scout out your locations in the daylight, you can also find really cool compositions for a one-of-a-kind photograph on the night when you come back to chase. And then learn night sky etiquette. Become part of the solution. Every night sky enthusiast should take time to learn proper night sky etiquette, whether it's reducing artificial light as you're aurora chasing or stargazing, or just taking better care of the land and nature around us. So that is the empowerment principle. Again, keep locations discreet, read up on ideas first, scout out your own spot, and learn night sky etiquette. Now let's jump into the Empowered Guide. It's got a table of contents here that's going to make it interactive and you can jump around and look at the parts that matter most to you. Here's a good starting point. I've written 7 different ways to find a viewing location, which include dark sky maps and video tutorials. So you can spend more time here. You can even see embedded videos. And if you are a member of the Michigan Aurora Chasers group on Facebook, a link to a guide that we've provided for our members. We'll jump back up to the table of contents and come on, why not just make it easy, right? I love helping people to experience the aurora, and I post locations they can join me at for our live chase events in the group. But when I announce a location, I know there's plenty of parking. I know that the terrain is safe for anyone to walk on. I know that we're not going to be in harm's way. I know we have permission, all these things. We're committed to making this experience as accepting, accessible, and inclusive as possible. And we want to respect people from all walks of life and all backgrounds, all experience levels. Everyone has a unique experience under the night sky. Um, but we want you to have a good experience under the night sky. So there are just a handful of potential scenarios here that kind of show you why I'm not going to give you one exact viewing location without knowing any context or anything about you or your goals. Um, things happen during the day. Nature happens. A rainstorm could make a once safe location all of a sudden flooded out. Maybe a bridge is out and you can't even get there on the safe route to the location. Um, Maybe wildfire smoke or clouds are going to be an issue in one location. And so if I send you there, you'll never see the northern lights, at least not until the weather clears. Erosion, landslides, in some areas, earthquakes, things like that can make conditions precarious. Um, if you're asking me what locations I know about without me being informed of what's happening there, I can't tell you what hazards to look out for. If you do just a little bit of looking before you go, the park will probably have warnings on their webpage or alerts to various hazards. They can tell you exactly what to expect. Maybe you're headed toward some of the most primitive, remote dark skies you can find in the area, but you've never been there before. For example, in Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, a lot of people don't realize you can drive miles and miles and miles without finding a gas station. You could run out of gas. And if you're risking it at night, you could get stranded because a lot of those businesses close earlier than you might expect. Um, you really have to be familiar with the areas that you're going to in this situation you're getting in so you can be prepared. If you were to get stranded during the peak season of aurora chasing in the winter months, you could face frostbite, in cold, wet snow, hypothermia. You could run out of water or food while you wait for help, depending on how far you're venturing out. So, a lot of us really devoted Aurora chasers carry safety equipment and emergency kits in our car. We don't know if you're that prepared or not. So, we're not going to tell you, to take high risk before you're ready. There may be new development that adds light to a scene that wasn't there before. Maybe you're bringing children, in which case you need to make even more preparations and choose even safer locations than you would have for just yourself as an adult. Um, Maybe you have accessibility needs. You need bathrooms or flat walkways for a wheelchair or a cane. We don't know. Um, so these are important things to consider. But in the guide, you can click contents and scroll back up to the table of contents, jump down to important considerations. Here are more of these precautions. Protecting life comes first. Go out there with more respect for life, the people, wildlife, humans, and even the land around you than you would have during the day. You never know what someone is going through in the dark. You don't know if they're scared, if they're angry, if they've been bit by a snake, if they're treating a wound. Hollering at them across the way to turn off their flashlights is not going to help educate them and make it a better experience for anyone. We really should have the utmost respect in these dark situations because we have no idea what's going on with other people. Um, Safety comes first, but minimize those blinding artificial lights when you can. Carry a red light option headlamp if you can, or some other night optimized flashlight or low light that can help you navigate the space until you're able to turn that off. This goes along with learning night sky etiquette and using as little light as possible, even in your car, once it's safe to do so. Number three, life-threatening weather occurs during peak aurora season. Don't get caught in a blizzard. Don't get stranded in an ice storm without emergency supplies. You just need to kind of think about where you're going, what season you're going in, what's expected to happen there, what's already happened there. Sometimes we'll see power outages and things like that. And so there are a lot of potential risk if you're just asking someone blindly where to go. Four, it's very likely you could lose cell service. So if you want to use your cell phone, if you scout out a location during the day, you can figure out where your cell service drops off just about and where you're going to be able to use it. So if that's important to you, something to know. Do not use private property without permission. Not only is it trespassing and against the law, but many people carry guns legally to protect their land and families when they feel threatened. And you might be an innocent Aurora chaser, but they will know nothing about you. All they'll see is a stranger in the dark on their farm, for example. And so you need to think call in advance and ask permission if you're even thinking about using private property, and think ahead. Um, Closing times could be a barrier. So, if you're going to a location, but you know nothing about whether it requires a pass or has closing gates or has closing times or has open areas, these are things that you can find out with this simple Google search. Um, do your part to keep these outdoor activities safe and sustainable. Avoid posting these specific locations in large groups or large crowds. What you're going to do is you're going to attract tons of people to maybe some really small locations. You may end up finding out there's not enough parking for everyone. Then there's a line of cars on the road. Then people are getting out of their cars on a road or a highway. Then all of a sudden it's a hazard and someone could potentially be harmed or get hit. So, you have no idea what situation you're creating if you haven't scouted out a location first. And if you're sharing those park names with people without thinking about some of these potential pitfalls, it could create a dangerous situation for them later. Other things can happen too. When people get frustrated, conflicts happen. You want to avoid that and have a good experience. Sometimes even extenuating personal circumstances are involved. Whether, someone is trying to protect their privacy and they didn't realize that your group was going to post the location publicly. Maybe they're trying to protect against stalkers, or they're a vulnerable adult. And there are just so many things that you don't know when you're posting a location to a large public forum, that could have been shared more privately, more discreetly. Stay within your comfort level. We all want to see the Northern Lights and catch the most fantastic displays of the year. If you're in this community, believe me, I know I love it too. But if you push yourself into areas or territories that you are unfamiliar with, situations that you don't know how to handle, you could end up in danger very quickly. People are injured all the time from situations that happen in natural spaces. And this is an immersive experience. So a little bit of wisdom and caution goes a long way. Avoid unnecessary risk. If you get stranded in a remote location in the dark at night, a lot of towing companies aren't open. They're not going to be able to help you until morning. And sometimes even emergency services have trouble reaching some of these high adventure spots that people might be recommending. So you could be in for a wait. And if you're unprepared for that, trouble calls. Then respect park rangers and law enforcement. Recognize that their job is to protect life and to safeguard these spaces. And we really want everyone to be cognizant of that, be respectful. It doesn't matter how badly you want to see the Aurora. Please respect those officers in charge and leave no trace. If you bring in something with you, carry it out. We don't want to trash these spaces. We don't want to harm these spaces. We don't want to anger anyone in these spaces. And if you leave your trash, you could risk getting that space closed off to the public in the future. We've seen it happen time and time again when a really pristine, beautiful area is closed off to the public, or needs, um, some tender loving care and some preservation in order to keep it pristine and make it available in the future. So if you're polluting these spaces, you can bet that you might lose access to them someday. So please carry your litter and trash out with you. Carry everything out that you carried in. Some people prefer to chase alone, so keep that in mind. Don't pressure each other in the dark, and slow down. It's exciting, but accidents happen. And the less we think ahead, the less we tap into our common sense and our respect for one another, the more issues we're going to have. So again, going through the guide back up to the contents, those are the important considerations. And then once you do your homework, we have lists of exactly where you can go. So around the world, around the United States, around the Great Lakes region, around Michigan, where I run the Michigan Aurora Chasers. Now, why do I feel comfortable sharing these publicly? Because they're list. I am giving you several options in this guide of where to go, not sending all 113,000 of our members currently to the exact location on the exact same night. When you share locations in a set of lists or a set of recommendations, you can help spread people out so that this stays more sustainable. So again, I'm going to navigate back up to the contents of the Empowered Guide and show you we have more sections to explain why we want to empower you to become a better Aurora chaser, why we want you to feel like you can find locations on your own, because believe me, sometimes the places you want to be will not be an option. Scrolling back up again, we've got reasons to become an empowered chaser, and I'll be happy to answer any FAQs as they come up. But these reasons should hopefully be enough to encourage you to scout out some of your own locations or do a little research and look up some of those websites to some of those parks and keep them off large public forums. You can enjoy the darkest skies the shortest distance from home. I once spotted the Aurora right in the suburbs of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and it was not one of those historic displays of the year. I used to live in Minnesota for a while, so that was practically my backyard. And actually, I did see it in my backyard. If you learn your stuff, you will. You can avoid unwanted headlights and flashlights, really help minimize that artificial light and have a better viewing experience. You can immerse yourself in peaceful viewing, have more intimate conversations with Aurora chasers because it's not a huge, unmanageable crowd. You can choose exactly how long you're going to hike and how high you're going to climb, um, and cater that to your desires. You can be confident whether you'll have cell signal or not in most situations by scouting out ahead of time. You can know precisely where to set up and get all set up even before the Aurora starts. And then you can plan what distance you need to carry all that camera gear and everything you're bringing with you, know exactly what to expect. And this is going to help you bond over inspiring experiences and friendships that are built on respect, connections that are built on supporting each other. That's going to improve the experience for everyone. So again, this is the Empowered Guide, deciding where to chase the Aurora. We've got actual list of exact locations for you, but we're asking you to join us in keeping our passions sustainable and really keeping those locations discreet so that they are not overused and submitted to damage and harm just by being posted on a group wall. So I hope this helps. I hope you'll watch as we build out these resources more over time. And as always, good luck on the Aurora chasing trail.